Tigray started its three-day national mourning parade on Saturday. The mourning parade is taking place in the memory of veterans who lost their lives during the war in Tigray. The martyrs from the ranks of Tigrayan forces were formerly doctors, engineers, teachers, farmers, as well as from other educational and career backgrounds. Most of the youngsters joined the Tigrayan forces in 2021 when the region was under occupation of Ethiopian, Eritrean, as well as Amhara forces. Martin Plaut, a former BBC journalist who has now specialized in conflicts in the Horn of Africa, says the Tigrayan youth had no choice but to defend themselves in light of the crimes that were being committed on their people. He said Tigrayans with different political interests joined hands to fight the war against their very survival.
There were even men that were raped as well. I mean, what on earth can you do? You have absolutely no choice, really, in those circumstances, but to either flee or defend yourself. And I think most people decided they would take the latter option and they would fight. But clearly, the vast majority of the people of Tigray rallied to the cause of the government and of the people. And the differences that there were between the various political parties in Tigray were put aside, and it was a fight for survival. So I think for most people there was really little choice.
The war ignited on the midnight of November 4, 2020, after Ethiopian Prime Minister came up on TV to declare the start of the war against the Tigrayan authorities, accusing them of attacking on Northern Command, the strong military base of the country.
The federal government had every right to deploy federal security forces and use force in order to apprehend those implicated in massive corruption and gross human rights violation.
On the 28th of November 2020, the Ethiopian forces and their allies controlled the capital Mekelle. The Ethiopian government declared the end of the war. However, atrocities by the Ethiopian, Eritrean, as well as Amhara forces continued. The Tigrayan youth rally into the fields to fight against the military axis drawn against their existence.
I felt humiliated. I took up an arm to free my motherland.
They were here to annihilate us. They do this because Tigray has a civilization, a history, and all that. Our purpose of fight is to make sure the existence of our people. After 8 months of occupation, the Tigrayan forces took control of the capital Mekelle in the end of June 2021. A government that started a war with some regiments got back with thousands of soldiers. For Martin Plaut, all the credit goes to the fighting spirit of Tigrayans as well as the heroism and dedication of the Tigrayan youth.
It was to the great credit of the fighting spirit of the Tigrayan people that they lost Mekelle once, but then they came back and forced the invaders out. And they were never able to recapture it. And that was an extraordinary achievement. So, I think there's everything to be said for what they did. And nothing can take away from their extraordinary heroism.
Fighting stopped in November last year following the signing of a peace deal between the TPLF and Ethiopian federal government in Pretoria. The signing of the Pretoria Cessation of Hostilities Agreement spared the people of Tigray from air attack, shelling and complete siege and communication blackout that devastated the region for over a year, despite its limitation to solve the very political reasons that led into conflict and the limitation in complying the agreement. Almost a year into the peace agreement, Tigray declared a national mourning parade in the memory of these veterans who lost their lives during the deadliest war. Asked about the mourning parade, Martin stated the need to remember the veterans who he say have given everything they have to save their people.
Obviously, they fought with extraordinary tenacity and bravery. And, they gave everything that they possibly could to their country and to their people. And of course, they deserve our respect and the respect of their people for what they have sacrificed. And it's just such a tragedy that they're having to now, bury people, or at least hold ceremonies for them, even if they were actually buried at the battlefields where they fell. This must be a moment of absolute heartbreaking, commemoration for their families, for their communities. But at least it does give some sense of closure. That at least they can now mourn openly. They know exactly who died, who didn't die, what happened to them, and I hope that that is something that they can at least heal in some small way. After all, they've lost young men, young women, and not such young men and women, in the struggle for survival.
The fighters who joined the ranks of the army only to defend an active invasion, however, hope they would be the last generation who take up an arm. The next generations should live in peace and freedom, and they shall worry only about development. They don't deserve to go through what we've gone through. We are the last generation when Tigray is hit from every direction, encircled by enemies. Would Tigray go into war again? Will the peace deal uphold? Are these days last price paid for eternal peace? It remains to be seen.